All right, well, it'll heat up here again today, no doubt about it. But look at this. Kids in Tulsa, Oklahoma already working to beat the heat, and there is no better way to do that than obviously put on your swimsuit and play in the water. Now, chances are kids in Baltimore will be down at the Inner Harbor today or at a pool in the city doing hopefully something very similar to this. Now, if you've been outside today, you know that it's pleasant outside. It's not too hot. But just to give you an idea of how quickly things warm up, we have this heat gauge that'll give you an idea. You point it at something, for example, a car. We all know those heat up. And it's in the 90s. Just from that, 92, 93 degrees, you point it in the shade, you get a completely different reading. So just a reminder to stay in the shade. And who better to tell us that than the very smart and wonderful Dr. Arbaje from Hopkins. We're here today talking about the temperatures because it's going to warm up later in the week. 99 degrees, and for elderly patients that can be a real issue, right?
That's exactly right. Hot is very hot. Anything over 90 you start to get really worried about an older adult because older adults can't sense the heat as well as younger adults can, and they can't sense when they're thirsty as early as we can as well. So because of those reasons, they have to be very careful out in this kind of weather.
Are there any sort of symptoms that you look for or any ways to know that, you know, if you have an elderly parent living with you, hey, maybe it's time for them to come in from gardening?
Yeah, so it's very interesting with older people. They don't act necessarily the way we would think they would, or like a younger person might. So it's not just, oh, I'm hot, I'm sweating, although those are very important. It's also things like just being a little confused, maybe feeling dizzy, maybe being more fatigued than usual, and maybe not making quite as much sense when they're speaking. So all of those things could be signs of possible heat exhaustion.
So when they do get hot, what do you do? What would you recommend? Do you need to go straight to a doctor?
Well, it's very important because most older adults are on some sort of medications, and many of the medications can affect the way your blood pressure works and can affect your fluid status. So it's important to call your doctor and find out if the medicines need to be adjusted when the weather gets hotter. So things like water pills, blood pressure pills, allergy medications, anything that affects the way you manage your fluids need to probably be adjusted when the weather gets this way. So bring them in, call the doctor, find out if there's any adjustment that needs to be made, and then keep them hydrated.
Now, we're looking at video right now of cooling centers that they have around the city where you can go in and sit in air conditioning. They'll provide water. That's a good idea if you're elderly, if somebody in your family is elderly and they don't have air conditioning and it gets to be 99, right?
Absolutely, because it's also about the humidity and your ability to sweat. And when you sweat out water, in addition salt and potassium. So it's very important to try to avoid sweating if at all possible. So getting to one of those cooling centers is really important.
Now, before we go really quickly, you said there's a place you can go where you can find a recipe to sort of replace, you know, and replenish if you get dehydrated.
Right, so we can put it on the website, but one that's really easy. It's just a liter of water, a quart of water, and then add a third cup of sugar and a quarter teaspoon of salt. The important thing is to have some sugar and some salt, not the artificial stuff, but the real stuff, and then add a little bit of lemon or orange just to kind of give yourself some flavor.
All right, I love it. Was there a place where people can reach you or a website they can go to if they have any questions?
Sure, we can put it on our website up at work. It's at Hopkins Medicine/geriatrics. hopkinsmedicine.org/geriatrics. We'll put it up there.
All right, we'll also put that link to on our website. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure having you here. Stay cool. Sorry to bring you out.
You as well.
At least it's nice. Charlie, we'll send it back to you and Lynette in the studio.